Joan Gott, Judy Honeychurch,
Here.
David Isom,
Here.
Jonathan Richardson,
Here.
John Silva, Bethany Smith,
Here.
Craig Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Who, Jonathan, move the motion. Who did the second?
Jonathan second first for David.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Joan Gott, Judy Honeychurch,
Here. Yeah, I mean, aye.
David Isom,
I'm here. Aye.
Jonathan Richardson,
Aye.
John Silva,
Aye. Here.
Bethany Smith,
Aye.
Craig Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. Excuse me, does anybody else hear that loud ringing? There's some loud noises going on in the background.
Yeah, I hear the background noise.
Do you hear it?
I do. Yeah. It's on away now with some music.
It's very annoying. We will be adjourning to, is there any speakers for closed session items?
There are no speakers for closed session items.
Thank you. We will be adjourning to closed session for discussion and possible action on matters of student discipline, personnel negotiations, and litigation. Meeting now adjourned for closed session.
everybody. 6 p.m. President Honeychurch, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Good evening. This meeting is being held pursuant to Executive Order N2920 issued by California Governor Gavin Newsom on March 12, 2020. Any or all board members may attend the meeting by phone. Members of the public may attend at the Fairfield Sassoon Central Office, 2490 Hillborn Road, Fairfield, California, to observe and provide public comment during the meeting. Board members will state their name when they make the motion and when they make the second. All votes will be recorded via roll call format. If my connection to the meeting fails, Board Vice President John Silva will run the meeting. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
Pledge
to
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. Superintendent Corey, could we please have the report of action in closed session?
Thank you, President Honeychurch. In the matter of conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, Property 624 and 634 Rockville Road, Fairfield, California. The board discussed cultural conservation easement to the Yoche Dehe Wintu tribe for the preservation of existing and future cultural values of the former Falls Elementary School site. No action was taken in this matter. There was no action taken under conference with labor negotiators, conference with legal counsel, and I just wanted to announce to the public that the public employment, we had assistant operations manager that was on for consideration, but due to our budget news that we recently got this week, that is not going to be a position that we are going to be filling. But I do want to announce by unanimous vote, the board has officially appointed Sandra Puffenbarger as Assistant Director of Special Education effective July 2nd, 2020. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sandra. She rose to the top of an extensive paper screening and interview process for the position of Assistant Director Special Education. She has taught 23 years, teaching various grade levels, and she then moved into the role with the Sonoma County Office of Education and Napa Valley Unified School Districts in an administrative role, and her most recent role is the Coordinator of Special Education. She places student growth and learning at the heart of her work. She's a collaborator with teachers and administrators and develops a shared plan for student success. She earned her Bachelor's of Art degree in Psychology from San Diego State and her Master's of Arts degree in Education from Sonoma State University. We are so thrilled and honored to have Sandra Puffenbarger join our Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District. Congratulations, Sandra. There was no other action taken in closed session.
Thank you, Superintendent Corey. I do have a brief opening statement. I would like to give a huge shout out to all of our classified and certificated staff who have been working diligently behind the scenes since our school closed. Our schools all closed. The hours and hours of time and energy spent in planning for distance learning and the different scenarios for how our schools may possibly open has been incredible. We're in uncharted territory. Everything has to be created anew, and now with less funding. We realize many of our families are upset that we're having virtual promotions and graduation ceremonies, but we have no choice if we are to follow California state guidelines. Safety for students, staff, and families is a priority. And last but not least, I would like to thank Superintendent Corey for her leadership. We are so fortunate to have such a compassionate, intelligent, and focused leader in these tumultuous times. Thank you. We'll now move on to 4A, recognitions, and I'll turn it over to Superintendent Corey.
Thank you, President Honeychurch, for that. Our first recognition tonight is for the 2019-2020 student, student leader group. This was a new group that we started this year. For years in this district, there's been a tradition that the superintendent met regularly with parent leaders from each site. And I got the idea at the end of last year that we probably should have the same thing for our student leaders. And so we had representatives from each of our schools. We didn't know how that would work out, having our elementary students and middle grade students and high school students all together, but it was great. They were fabulous. They provided us so much valuable feedback, and we've continued to meet with them I've continued to meet with them these last 2 months virtually, and they have given us great perspective from the student standpoint. So tonight, I just want to acknowledge they are each going to get a pin. Here it is. They'll get a little student leader pin that they'll be able to wear, and each of them will get a certificate of appreciation. So right now, I just wanted to read their names. From Anna Kyle, Luis Jimenez. From Armio High School, Aiden Davis. Bigil Wilson, Justice Hudley, and Jordan Marino. Cleo Gordon, Alicia Fuentes, and Claudia Lucero. Cordelia Hills, Jaden Burke. Crescent, London Vidari, and Taylor Johnwell. Crystal Middle School, Israel Legree, and Gianna Williams. Dano Root, Lisette Hernandez. David Weir, Kayla Smith. Dover Academy for International Studies, Jessica Melkor. Eru Sheldon, Emery Pitt. Early College High School, Isabella Bisocho and Jacob Francisco. Fairfield High School, Jordan Jackson and Jasmine Cortez Vega. Fairview, Mason Glenn and Kai Winston. Grange Middle School, Nicole Young. Green Valley Middle School, Jasmine Amati and Jack Barnes. K.I. Jones, Caden Arvin, and Sarah Meyer. Laurel Creek, Chandelier Avila, sorry about that. Matt Garcia, College and Career Academy, Amy Gonzalez. Nelda Mundy, Nate Holmberg. Oak Brook Academy of the Arts, Jamie Stukas. Public Safety Academy, Navi Sahota. Rodriguez High School, Hannah Barnes and Robin Violanda. Rolling Hills Elementary, Max Mulvihill. Semieto High School and Semieto Satellite, Romeo Ollison. Sassoon Elementary, Natasha Amonte and Chanel Jackson. Sassoon Valley, Jace Parkinson and Iana Balasi. And Tolinas Elementary, Elena Busby. Congratulations and thank you to those students who came once a month and spent about an hour and a half to 2 hours with me. And what's the best part about it is when I would go visit on school campuses, somebody knew who I was and I knew who they were. So I just wanted to give a shout out and thank them again.
Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Ken Whittemore, who will read the names of staff who are retiring.
Before we turn it over to Mr. Whittemore, I just wanted to say to the board and to our community that this year, because of social distancing, we usually have all of our retirees come to the boardroom and our board members get to honor them. This year, what happened is we always present them with Ken will show you the presentation that we give, a little memento of appreciation. And we had our staff members who used their personal time to go and deliver some of those awards out to our folks at home. And so I want to give a shout out to Martha Pierce because we took pictures on the road and she put together a slideshow for you. And so as Ken reads the names, just know that the pictures and the names probably aren't going to match, but we did want to show the photos of those.
Very good. And good evening, President Honeychurch, Superintendent Corey, and honorable board members. I'm very fortunate tonight to be able to announce the Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District 2020 retirees. These people represent all facets of service to our children, and even more impressive, the people that I'm about to present to you account for an impressive 1,314 years of service to the children and students of Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District, and that's quite an impressive number. All of the people that I'm about to read to you have been invited to join us virtually tonight, and so I hope many of them have elected to join us. So without further ado, let me go through these names. From Rodriguez High School, Mr. Darrell Adams. From Maintenance and Operations, Barbara Akins. From Nelda Mundy, Greg Aldridge. From Crescent Elementary, Jamie Allen. From Anna Kyle Elementary, Deanna Alloway. From K.I. Jones, Rosemary Aaron. From Technology Support Services, Kevin Bouchard. From Cleo Gordon, David Brown. From Elementary Education, Cindy Brown. From Sullivan, Stacy Burke. From Fiscal Services, Vanessa Carez. From Adult School, Barbara Catania. From Armio High School, Georgia Serda. From Public Safety Academy, Cynthia Clogston. From Grange Middle, Carla Colbert. From Transportation, Edward Coleman. From Maintenance and Operations, Daniel Cortez. From Fairfield High School, May Cranford. From Anna Kyle, Stephanie Cruz. From Maintenance and Operations, Ricardo Diogege. From Crescent Elementary, Suzanne Duncan. From Armio High School, Onita Edmonds. From Tolinas Elementary, Kenneth English. From Fiscal Services, Deborah Irvin. From Fairfield High School, Linda Forcell. From Transportation, Charles Golly. From Human Resources Central Office, Mary Glover. From Maintenance and Operations, Steve Green. From Early College, Danette Hale. From Technology Support Services, David Hillman. David A. Weir, Linda Huff. From Crystal, Mary James. From Transportation, Joanne Jarvis. From E. Ruth Sheldon, Earl Johnson. From Special Education, Patricia Kino. From Elementary Education, Martha Lacey. From Special Education, Lynn Lee. From K.I. Jones Elementary, Patty Lieferman. From E. Ruth Shelton, Michael Levy. From Adult School, Kathy Link. From Child Nutrition, Elisa Lomas. From the Warehouse, John Mathnis. From David A. Weir Elementary, Nancy Martinez. From Transportation, George Metris. From David A. Weir, Teresita Ordias. From Anna Kyle, Kathy Orr. From K.I. Jones Elementary, Sharon Orr. From Cleo Gordon, Liz Osborne. From Oakbrook, Deborah Ray. From K.I. Jones, Colette Renville. From Nelda Mundy, Kim Ron. From Special Education, Sally Sick. From Crystal, Michelle Spanheimer. From Maintenance and Operation, Mark Stinson. From E. Ruth Sheldon, Robin Stewart. From Nelda Mundy, Ann Story. From Rodriguez High School, Melissa Vallejo. From Special Education, Lisa Vanderbeck. From Anna Kyle, Kathy Wiggin. From Fairfield High School, Geraldine Wilson. From David A. Weir, Eileen Witt Abedi. And for Secondary Education, James Wood. Congratulations and thank you to all of you and for all of your contributions to our students. That concludes our retirement.
Thank you, Ken. We will now move to the Employee Organization Awards, and I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Corey.
These are annual awards again that we have people come to the district office and join us at the boardroom. And this year we've done them virtually. So I'm going to turn it over to our technology department who has some videos for us to share.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey and members. Great pleasure to be as Chapter 302 CSEA Members of the Year for 2020. Raina Holsworth, Clerical Unit, and our Chief Teller, and Jean Baker, Support Unit, and our Sergeant at Arms. Both Raina and Jean give of their time and energy to support the members and the goals of our chapter in CSEA. Thank you so very much, and congratulations to you.
I'm Bethany Pasick, lead school psychologist, here to present the recipient of the APA School Psychologist of the Year Award to Trisha Burkhart. Trisha and I first met at Crescent Elementary 5 years ago when I started working there. She was friendly and welcoming, and we became fast friends. Trisha became a school psychologist 4 years ago after spending many years as a special education teacher. Trisha is a team player who is quick to support her colleagues both personally and professionally, whether that means lending a listening ear or supporting with an evaluation at another school. Trisha headed the social committee this year as well as being part of the union leadership team. We wish her luck next year as her and her family move to Montana. Congratulations, Trisha. We will miss you.
Good evening, Superintendent Corey, Board President Honeychurch, and Governing Board. On behalf of the Fairfield Sassoon Management Association, I am proud and I'm honored to present our Certificated and Classified Managers of the Year. Our Certificated Manager of the Year is Director of Student Services, Ms. Angie Avalonides. A graduate of Fairfield High, Angie started here as a substitute teacher in 1999. An early MBA candidate, she loved working with kids so much that she switched to a credential program and became a teacher working at Rodriguez High. Angie became an assistant principal at Armio and Rod, and she has now been with Student Services for the last 10 years. Her peers describe her as a passionate champion of her community who is reliable and trustworthy. Our Classified Manager of the Year is Technology Support Manager, Mr. Ruben Ramirez. Ruben started as a Computer Network Technician 1 in November of 2015 and moved to Technology Support Manager in August of 2018. His peers describe Ruben as a customer service friendly manager, always available to answer questions, works well under pressure, and always does whatever is necessary to support student learning and safety in our district. On behalf of FSMA, again, congratulations to Angie and Ruben. Thank you to both of you for your terrific service to our district. Good night.
And I know Angie Apollonides' parents are viewing this from home. So congratulations on your daughter's success. And congratulations, Ruben.
Okay, and now Superintendent Corey will recognize Eric Cortez and Jordan Jackson as our student board member and alternate student board member.
Thank you. And they are here. So I am going to ask them to come up here and social distance with me because we have a recognition for them. We have tape on the ground for them so that they know where to stand here. So you're right here, Eric. And you're right here, Jordan. And so I just want to thank you both and acknowledge your fantastic leadership. It's always a pleasure to have a student board member on our team, but you two just exemplified what leadership is in our community, and we're just so very proud of you. We have some presents for you here. In your card is a present. We think nothing speaks appreciation more than cash. So there's cash in those cards for you, and I just want to say that is a donation from me, my cabinet, and your colleagues, your fellow board members. So those were donated from them. Also, Eric, you have in yours, or both of you have a Made in FSUSD pin that you have to proudly wear, particularly when you become president of the United States. And then you'll get to get another one when you come back to teach at Fairfield High School. And you have a gavel in yours, and you have your name tag. And then additionally in there, you also have a stole. So if you wanted to take that out so you can see when you take your pictures during your virtual graduations this year, make sure you can put that on right now. Make sure you wear those proudly. And what I can tell you is our board members are very disappointed because they're not here to take a selfie with you, because at graduation, when your name was called, we would have all gotten together. And so we just want to thank you and just tell you how proud we are of you.
Thank you, Eric and Jordan, for being such fabulous board members. You were really, really good this year. And now we'll move on to presentation of the Student Board Member Handbook. And Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm just going to pull up my presentation. Yeah.
It's on its way.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you. So I would now like to present to you all the Student Board Member Handbook that I've been working on for the past few months. I've reported on it at a few of my Student Board Member reports. So without further ado, I'm just going to walk you through the main sections. So in the first place, I saw the need for this handbook when I was first sworn in back in fall of 2019. There's a few purposes, but chiefly it's to clarify the different roles and responsibilities that the student board member has. And it's one place for all of the student board members' questions to be answered. Generally, it serves as a guide for current and future student board members, as well as the alternate student board member. And although we have a great staff that is open and really helpful to answer any questions or concerns, I figured it would be really helpful to have a handbook just to guide the student board members for a starting point. So in the first portion of the handbook, we have the following mission statements and FSUSD goals. This comes right after the table of contents, of course, so it's the opening of the book and it establishes everything that FSUSD is about. Right after that, we have some bios, and on the first section of bios, we have the governing board members and the superintendent bios. I put mine up there as an example, even though my own bio doesn't come up until the next section, which is the student board member section. Under that section, you will find, apart from my bio, there's a words of wisdom section, which is basically where every student board member leaves short pieces of advice. That starts with me, of course, because this is the first student board member handbook. So right after that, theoretically, every incoming student board member would put in their own words of wisdom. And then also there's a link to the information on every student board member that has come before me. So just to not saturate the information on the student board member handbook, you can access that link for every student board member from the first one. After that, we have the roles and responsibilities section, and this is provided to differentiate the different roles. So from student board member to governing board member to alternate and superintendent. Then we have a whole section dedicated to Student Advisory Council because, as you may know, that's a main job that the student board member has as the chair of the Student Advisory Council. So on there, we have what the purpose is, meeting regulations, roles and responsibilities of the student board member in the council, roles and responsibilities of the Student Advisory Council members, and other information like that. The who does what is basically a table that it simplifies the responsibilities of the governing board and superintendent. So that sums up everything that you will find in the roles and responsibilities of all the governing board members and superintendent. However, it puts it into a T-chart. So it just clarifies that the governing board decides what and the superintendent decides how. Then there's board meeting information. So in the first section, which is agenda reading tips, it has a glossary setup. Basically, different terms that you'll find on the agenda regularly are put there and defined for typically any student board member who may need it, who is not accustomed to reading the agenda or any agenda like it, or just for reference. And it helps, especially even for alternates too, because they might have to fill in for the student board member. Then we have information on board docs, which, as you probably know, is where you can access the agendas and additional information to every meeting. We describe all the different meeting agenda requirements, and there is a little bit about the Brown Act and how it relates to the agenda, but more information will come on that later. This section of the handbook is fairly short in comparison to the other ones. There's just a link to the governance calendar. However, right after that, there's a table that differentiates between the different meetings. Majority of the meetings that the student board member attends are regular meetings, but as you can see from the ones listed here, there are different types, and it just explains what the purpose is for each one and how they compare and contrast. And then finally, the last part is the appendix. So this is the section where you can go to reference any of the acts and bylaws. So we have the board bylaw, which established the student board member position, and then the Brown Act and Robert's Rules of Order, which are obviously really important to how a meeting should be governed. However, I figured it would be best here in the appendix section because that way each student board member has different experience with the Brown Act and Robert's Rules. So they can go to the appendix, and read or check up as needed. And of course, there's board policies and administrative regulations, as well as governance and management using technology information. So with that, I'd just like to open it up to board discussion.
Thank you so much, Eric. This is really an extensive and well-organized handbook, and I think it will be used by many in the future. Does anyone else on the comment
Yes.
or questions?
Yes.
Yes, David?
I just want to celebrate Eric and this incredible work that he's done putting into the student board member handbook. It's a great tool. The last several board members, the student board members, have kind of figured their way out, and Eric decided that that wasn't really a good process, and stepped up to the plate with his team of helpers and just made this thing happen. So kudos to you. Thank you for your service to the board as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. John, did you have a comment?
Yes, I have a comment. Anyway, I just think this is a really great idea and a great reference for whoever comes after Eric. And that Eric even just took all of this information, put it all in one place. It's pretty amazing, coming from the perspective of a board member and not the board, because he's the one that had to wrestle with these things on his own, and now those after him will not have to wrestle with it on their own. They'll have a roadmap to go by instead of having to go to the conference and quiz all of or glean whatever they can from the other members and how it works and what they do and what's going on. Maybe with this in hand, they'll be the authorities at the conference when everybody has to ask a question. But anyway, Eric, great work, and it's too bad we can't all be at the board right now, because that would normally happen, and we'd all be able to give you a round of applause and tell you how good this work was and the work you've done in the past. But yeah, it's great. I love it. Maybe we can get our current board president to make one of these up for the board.
We do. We have our governance handbook.
Just kidding. Anyway, yeah, great. I love it.
Thank you, John. Joan, did you want to have a comment?
Yes, I wanted to say thank you so very much to Eric, because I think you represented your student constituents very, very well on the board. And I know that you put a lot of effort into solving issues that you thought would be useful to your students. And I thank you for the time that you have given to us. You've been really, really special.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joan. Anybody else? Jonathan?
Madam President, Mr. Cortez, there's a statement that I want to give you that I hope will empower you as you move forward. May the lives we live and the legacy that follows empower us to equip other people to live beyond their potential. And it's my hope and desire that the work and the effort that you put into this handbook, in addition to the leadership that you've provided, a cadre of students, will be something so significant that it continues to ripple throughout the ranks of future student board members. In addition to that, I hope that what you've done here inspires the future board members to begin to introduce this to other board members through CSBA, to the extent at which you see what your leadership has done at FSUSD and how it begins to impact the role of student board member across the state. So for that, we congratulate you for a job well done, and we wish you only the best and success as you move forward into your next chapter.
Thank you so much.
Craig?
The handbook is quality, Eric. I flipped through it and followed some links, and I learned some stuff. I mean, there's the information that I want to be able to go back to. So good job. And I'd like to mention that it was a great pleasure to have you on the board with us and have you participate in our meetings and training and just the informal chit chat between things. It's just been very pleasurable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think
Oh,
I'm the
Bethany,
last,
go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm the last one.
Yes.
No, I as everybody else has said, yeah, this reminds me of, whenever I left a leadership position, I tried to make sure that there was some sort of guidance for somebody to follow along so they didn't have to recreate the wheel every time, things changed hands. So it reminds me of some of the handbooks that I've put together over time. And I don't even want to say how many years younger than me you actually are in putting all of that together. But I have to say it did highlight a negative for me, which is that I have not done my part to get in and have them update my bio, because that was 2 jobs ago. So I owe you guys a new bio. I am curious though, where is this going to live? Is it going to be on our website? Because I think this could really be a good tool for people who maybe are curious about either becoming a student board member or are just a member of the public that wants to know what it's all about.
Yeah, it'll be on the website, and I think it's linked on the agenda on Board Docs. I'm not sure, but yeah, it'll be on the website to answer your question.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations, and congratulations on the last year.
Thank you so much.
Good work.
Thank you so much. And thank you again, Eric. Going on to 4C, the appointment of student 2020 and 2021 student board member Chantel Martino and alternate student board member Jacob Francisco. Ms. Corey, is there any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. The District Student Advisory Council, comprised of middle school and high school students, has selected the 2020-2021 student board member representative and alternate student board member. Chantel Martino and Jacob Francisco were selected as student board member and alternate student board member respectively. This position does not accrue any compensation. The only possible cost would be reimbursement or payment of expenses for attendance at training opportunities and conferences as appropriate. Do we have any comments from board members? Otherwise, if not, may I have a motion to approve the appointments?
Move approval, Bethany.
Second, Joan Gott.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Joan Gott,
Aye.
Judy Honeychurch,
Aye.
David Isom,
Aye.
Jonathan Richardson,
Aye.
John Silva, Bethany Smith,
Hello.
Aye.
John Silva,
Aye.
Craig Wilson,
Aye.
Eric Cortez.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now Superintendent Corey will administer the oath of office.
So I'm going to have our new board members join us up here, please. Chantel and Jacob. We have you taped again, so maintain social distancing while we do our oath. And there's a paper right there for you. Is that yours? All right. You need to come in just a little bit more. Not too close. There you go, right there. Can you see it? All right. So I'm going to have you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I say your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. With the authority granted to me by the Constitution of the state, you duly appointed and installed to assume the duties as a member of the governing board of the Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District. Congratulations. You have to turn and smile and wave to your family members who are here today. Awesome.
Chris, can you have them stand in front of your camera for just a second so we can actually see their faces?
Yes, so we're going to have one of you stand right underneath. You're going to stand underneath there. So this is Chantel. All right. Now you're going to move out, and and here is Jacob. All right. And so now they are going to join us up here at the, well, Chantel is going to join us up here at the dais, right? And we have your, hand them out freely. All right.
Welcome to the board, Chantel and Jacob. We now move on to E, review of disclosure of final terms associated with the sale of Measure C, Series 2011 bonds, and I will turn it over to Michelle Henson. But first, do we have any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Thank you. Michelle?
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Honeychurch, Superintendent Corey, and governing board members. I am pleased to share with you this evening the details from our recent Measure C bond refunding. In February of this year, in preparation for the Measure J bond sale, Moody's Investors Service rated the district with a favorable credit rating of AA2 and qualified that rating as a stable outlook for the future. Immediately following the ratings, the district conducted a highly successful sale of the Measure J third and final series of bonds, which were sold on February 20th, 2020, with a record low true interest cost of 1.99%. In order to provide additional savings to the community and take advantage of the record low interest rates, the district decided to refund the Measure C outstanding debt on May 5th, 2020. Current refunding bonds were a negotiated sale that resulted in an interest rate of 2.47. Previous rates were between 3.55 to 4.13 between the varying outstanding bonds. The remaining Measure C cumulative outstanding debt was sold in order to further reduce the interest rate and save taxpayers just over $1 million. This sale did not extend the terms of the bonds. The successful sale, based upon the competitive market and the high credit rating of AA2, allowed the district to capitalize on one of the lowest interest rate environments in history. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I mean, that's amazing. We're saving the taxpayers over $1 million by this. So thank you very much for doing such a great job. Any comments from board members? Okay, move on to F, written annual report on FSUSD Career Technical Education Program. There is no presentation. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Any board discussion? Okay. Employee organization reports. Do we have any reports?
There are no employee organization reports.
Thank you. H, student board member report. I don't know if we have one right away, probably, but I'll give you a chance.
We have one. We have one.
Oh, Chantel, ready to go.
Hi. I just wanted to come on here to say I'm looking forward to working with everyone, and I'm excited to see what's in store for this year.
Yes, it's indeed going to be an unusual and exciting year, for sure. Thank you. We'll move on to Superintendent Corey's report.
Thank you, President Honeychurch. I have a number of items. I have so much paperwork in front of me. first, I meant to say this when we were swearing in our student board members, but they also have a student advisory council secretary. It's a new position for 2020-2021. And Mashika, I hope I'm saying her last name right, Marima, will be attending the board meetings along with our other student board members, and she'll be taking notes and bringing them back to Student Advisory Council. So I'm very excited about that. Happy birthday to Ken Whittemore, whose birthday was yesterday, and a happy early birthday to our board president, Judy Honeychurch, who will be celebrating on May 26th. Tomorrow we have a very exciting day here at the central office parking lot, and hopefully you can all join us in honoring our highest honors. We are going to be distributing their highest honor sign. It's a lawn sign, their cord and their tassel between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So hopefully board members, you can be here and join us in that drive-by honor and celebration. With the realization that we're going to have potential budget cuts in the 2020-2021 school year, starting in December of 2019, Educational Services began reviewing each open and vacant position to determine if there was a need to replace employees. To date, this department has eliminated the following administrative positions: the Assistant Director of Public Relations and Grants, the Itinerant Administrator position, and the Assessment Operations Manager. These will impact not only the current year budget, but also our future budget. In addition, we are also eliminating 2 classified positions from the central office: the Secretary 2 for the Assistant Director of Public Relations and Grants, and the Secretary 2 that was assigned to the Assistant Director of Elementary Education. These are just the beginning of some of the positions that we know are going to be impacted in the future. Today on our agenda, we have the May revise that we are going to be looking at and how that's going to impact our budget moving forward. We knew that a recession was coming. We just didn't know that it would come in such quick speed as this COVID-19 situation has thrust us into. So I just wanted to let the board know that we will be analyzing every vacancy in the future and making some tough decisions in regards to filling or not filling those positions. On a more positive note, I want to congratulate the 25 early college high school students who earned 1 or more AA degrees from Solano Community College. Their college graduation is tonight, Eric? It's happening right now, at 6 o'clock started. So our student board member, Eric Cortez, is one of those 25 early college high school students. So he's actually graduating right now from Solano Community College at the same time as this board meeting. So you have your 2 computers streaming, so you're watching your graduation right now? Okay, well, congratulations. And I'm just curious, how many AA degrees did you, 3? 3 AA degrees that he accomplished. So he's going off next year to college with 3 AAs under his belt. We will be honoring those students who have received their associate's degree at next board meeting. And that concludes my, it doesn't conclude my report. I did want to mention to the board that we have an extensive committee that is looking at the reopening of school for the 2020-2021 school year. There's quite a few on this team from every department represented in Fairfield, Sassoon. And so we are looking at the guidance from the CDE and also from public health as we move towards some way of reopening our schools and what that looks like. There are a lot of suggestions for things that we may need to do in order to reopen our schools. And as they always say, they're recommendations, they're not requirements. And some of those recommendations that are being thrown out there are just not going to be feasible for Fairfield Sassoon to meet. And one of the things that was discussed was maybe a split session where half the students would come in the morning and half the students would come in the afternoon with extensive sanitation and cleaning between the sessions. Well, we know just from our current staffing ratios and just how long it takes for a custodian to do general cleaning that this would not be possible. So we are looking at various contingency plans. What we're finding is that as we consider all of these different options, we're actually creating about 4 different scenarios and 4 different ways of potentially doing school with significantly less funding. And so it is very challenging, but I do want to just really express my appreciation for the team that has been spending literally hours upon hours developing these plans. Today, I listened in on the webinar from our state superintendent, and somebody made a comment that, oh, this is a busy time because people start planning for the reopening of the school year over the summer. And I had to kind of laugh about that because that's not really true. We start planning for our next school year as soon as we finish the opening of the previous school year. So back in August, as soon as our school year started, we started planning for 2020, 2021. And so usually in the summertime, it's busy, but we're kind of doing the extra touches on the plan that we already have in place. And so we are, everybody's working diligently to try to get something in place. We heard yesterday, and David Isom, our past president, was on the call this morning with Solano EDC, Solano Economic Development, and our Chamber of Commerce. And they talked about the economy in Solano County and mentioned that malls are going to be opening up, retail stores, restaurants. So Solano County is a little bit ahead of some other counties. And so we know that there is going to be a desire to have our kids back on campus in some way, shape, or form. We just don't know what that looks like at this point. We do hope to have a more defined plan in the near future, which we will definitely share with the board and the community.
Madam President?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, David.
I just wanted to share that Chris didn't add to her report just now that she helped me to prepare for a Zoom meeting that we had today with 5 colleagues from across the state with Congressman Garamendi regarding some of the things that she just talked about. But Fairfield Sassoon was represented well because Chris was able to give me the information that we needed to be able to share with the congressman that is going to make a difference in the Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District. Just a real quick example is the story that Chris has given us about not being able to distribute lunches because the milk was a commodity that needed to be presented with the lunch in order to be reimbursed. That's a federal situation, and he's going to do what he can to make sure that that is not a challenge anymore should we lose a vendor and not be able to have all of the commodities. So I just wanted to thank her for preparing us to be able to have that meaningful conversation.
Yeah, the word that we need for the future is flexibility. We need the most flexibility as possible granted to us in the way of spending, instructional minutes, instructional days. I mean, flexibility is going to be key in order for us to provide a quality educational program in the future until there's a vaccine and we can come back to maybe some sense of normalcy. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Corey. Moving on to 5A, public comment. This is the opportunity for the public to address items that are not on the board meeting agenda. Public comment is only permitted on matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Do we have any public comment?
We do. We have 3 public comments. Our first is George Gwynn, followed by Ronald Drake, and then finally Kelly Marie Chen.
Okay.
Good evening. This is George Gwynn. Hope you can hear me. This so-called pandemic really proves the advantages of staying local as opposed to having things controlled from higher levels. And after this meeting is over, I'm going to send you a article about a pandemic that was worldwide in 1957. And I was in this 8th or 9th grade at the time, and the schools were not shut down. 116,000 people died, which is more than under the present one. And there wasn't near the devastation that's happened this time. A lot of people don't have a job now, and back then that wasn't an issue at all. And we got a governor that had a surplus of about $23 billion to start with, and now we have a deficit of about 53, 54 billion or so. I hope this doesn't happen again, but it probably will, and I hope if it does, you'll make sure that everybody knows that one size doesn't fit all. In other words, what's good for Los Angeles or San Francisco is not the same in Solano County. And this should not have been the issue that has become in Solano County. I think you guys did about as good a job as you could do, given the circumstances, but I think that there were still a lot of resources that were wasted because the governor took on authority that he really shouldn't. The legislature and the Senate are the people that are supposed to have a shutdown. That's not really supposed to be the governor's job to do that. And if things had stayed local, I think they would have already been resolved. I'm happy to see that it looks like we're going to start back again, but in the next week or two. But it seems to me that a lot's been lost in the meantime. And I think that you guys are going to get cuts on the state level like you've never had before, and that's not going to be very good. So I really hope that you guys are knocking on the doors of all the politicians, local, county, and state, to make sure that they don't play games with you like has happened from the start, it seems. So I hope you're looking for any ideas that you can to help make this situation go away and get back to normal, because too many resources have been wasted. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Ronald Drake. I'm the proud parent of Beyonce Marie Cooper, a junior at Fairfield High School. She's graduating this year, a year early. And I understand everything that's going on right now with COVID-19, and it's not going to be a live graduation, but all of the students were getting virtual graduation. And some way, somehow, because she's graduating early, she was missed on this list. She was missed as well as some other students. I received a call Monday, basically that we apologize, but we're going to see what we can do to get her included on this virtual graduation. After that, of course, her mother received a call that she will be edited in some way, somehow, but I just want to make sure that I was here in case that didn't happen, so that I had it on record. Beyonce, as well as other students, worked extremely hard to graduate, and I just want to make sure that this is rectified and taken care of before the graduation ceremony on in June. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Marie Chen, and I am joined here with Ron Drake on behalf of Beyonce Marie Cooper, a student at Fairfield High School. As Ron just stated, Beyonce worked extremely hard to graduate a full year early, and her name was erroneously left off the list that was provided to the vendor of the virtual commencement ceremony. I want to commend that Principal Cushman has been very cooperative in trying to rectify this situation upon us reaching out to him to tell him that it was just simply unacceptable that these students who have worked so hard not be recognized for their commencement. As you know, this global pandemic has really hit hard the families and the children of the 2020 graduation year. They're already not getting their traditional graduation ceremony. And as such, this virtual commencement means a lot to the friends and family far and wide. And so it's very important to us that Beyonce's hard work be recognized. And again, I just want to really thank Principal Cushman for his help. And I'm hoping that with your help as the board, you can help him to work with the vendor to ensure that these students who were erroneously left off the virtual commencement get included, whether that be through the vendor or through a secondary vendor or through the visual arts program at the school. It's really imperative that these students receive a commiserate commencement as their peers. And that's all that I had. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar. Do we have any items to be pulled from the consent calendar? Okay. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
There's no public comment.
Thank you.
Move approval, Bethany.
Thank you. Second?
Jonathan Richardson.
Second. Okay. May I have a roll call, please?
Joan Gott,
Aye.
Judy Honeychurch,
Aye.
David Isom, David Isom,
Aye.
Jonathan Richardson,
Aye.
John Silva,
Aye.
Bethany Smith,
Aye.
Craig Wilson,
Aye.
Chantel Martino.
Aye.
Thank you. We will now then move to 11A, action items, review and potential approval of recommendation to open the Virtual Academy of Fairfield Sassoon for the 2020-2021 school year. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Okay, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Melissa Farrar.
Good evening, Board President Honeychurch, Superintendent Corey, and Governing Board. Give me just a second to pull up my presentation. Again, good evening. I am here representing a fabulous committee of people to present to you the Virtual Academy of Fairfield Sassoon. Our committee was made up of members from FSUDA, from Ed Services, Special Education, and we really worked with a consensus process to bring forward this proposal for you today. The Virtual Academy of Fairfield Sassoon is recommended to open as a kindergarten through 8th grade school for all students within our district. We anticipate there to be an application process that we're hoping to have go out next week. But really, as we were developing this virtual academy, one of the things that we really tried to think about was what would make this school different from distance learning that we know or that we've been working with right now, but also different from independent study. And so we came up with 4 different components that would be key features for the Virtual Academy of Fairfield Sassoon. The synchronous instruction piece was the first piece that made the most sense for us to include in the virtual academy. Synchronous instruction is a word we've been using quite a lot, but it really just means instruction happening at the same time for students. So in this situation, students would be meeting virtually. So they'd be using Google Meets, they'd be participating via Google Classroom. But in that Google Meet time, and again, this is something that would be different than what we're doing right now for distance learning, they'd be receiving some live instruction from their teacher, their classroom teacher. That could happen as a whole group, a small group, or it could be one-on-one depending on the situation. But they'd come together every single day for a period of time to receive that whole group instruction. We also felt that it was really important for our students to be able to connect with each other in this way. So just like you would be learning in a classroom again, you'd be doing this virtually, but there would be that opportunity to really create bonds as a class. This synchronized instruction, or this instruction that would happen at the same time, would also vary depending upon the age level or the grade of the student. So our kindergarten students might not be online in synchronous instruction or sitting in front of their computer for the same amount of time as our older students in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade would be. They might be a little bit, our older students might be a little bit more capable of sitting for a little bit longer period of time, but that time would vary depending on the student's grade level. The second main component of our proposal is asynchronous instruction. So instruction that's not happening at the same time. And folks might think, okay, well, that sounds a lot like what we're doing in distance learning. It could be very similar to some of the things that are happening, and it could also be a little bit more enhanced, but the lessons would be self-paced. It could be recorded video instruction. Students could be participating in web quest activities, which are inquiry oriented, where a teacher maybe gathers a whole bunch of websites, excuse me, the word is stuck in my throat at the moment, pre-vetted websites for the students to be able to do some discovery-based learning. They could be doing group projects or individual activities. And then especially for our younger learners, we really wanted to make sure that there was opportunity for them to have some non-digital experience as well. So that and not just worksheets or activity, things like that to do, but things that they would be doing at home that would help them discover learning on their own without being in front of the computer all of the time. A key component for this feature, or for this school, is really the standards-based curriculum. We would be doing teacher-led, teacher-developed curriculum. So this would not be an edgenuity situation. It would not be a computer program would be delivering the instruction. We'd be hiring teachers specifically for this school to be able to develop and deliver the instruction to our students. And that, again, is a very different component that we felt was really important. We're anticipating multi-grade level classrooms and really being able to integrate that learning for students depending on what the standard is. So a teacher might work on a standard and have their different grade levels of students access that standard in a different way. So it really gives us an opportunity to do some strong curriculum development around that standards-based instruction. And the last piece of this proposal is a parent or guardian partnership to really make sure that the school is successful and that the student is successful in this school. We really want to make sure that the families understand that how important it is for the student to be able to access that synchronous and asynchronous learning activities, how important it is for them to be a part of their classroom in this new virtual way. We anticipate there to be a need to communicate regularly, both with the school and the teacher, about the progress and the learning for the student. And we're hoping that as things continue to open up, that there might be occasional opportunities for some in-person community-based activities for students to participate in. So, for example, that might be a field trip. It might be a class meet at the public library to be able to do some library research or do a read aloud with the librarian, things like that, so that there would be an opportunity for the students to potentially meet in person as well, but the bulk of their learning really being in that virtual space. Again, our committee has really worked hard to be able to bring forward this presentation to you, and we do recommend opening up the Virtual Academy of Fairfield Sassoon. It is a standalone school for our district, and we anticipate it's something we've really been working hard for the last several years to try and figure out how to get off the ground. And we're taking this opportunity because we know there's a need, but also we've been able to see some great successes with our distance learning. And we hope to be able to translate that into a really robust and really unique virtual school opportunity for students in our district, giving yet one more opportunity for our families to be able to choose the right kind of school for their student. And with that, I open it for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Farrar. Board members, any comments or questions?
Yes.
I have some questions.
Okay, well, let's see. I saw Joan first and then John.
Okay.
Okay, Melissa or Dr. Farrar, where would this program be housed?
That's a great question. We anticipate that the teachers would be also working from home. So it would be, they would have virtual workspaces as well. Right now, we're anticipating that the supervision or the site administration would be handled by Ed Services. And then when the program grew to a large enough amount, we would consider other options for that. But the teachers would start off able to work from home as a part of this virtual school.
Okay, I have another question. How many teachers are you looking to hire for this?
Well, a lot of that will depend based off of enrollment.
So for instance, if you have, say, 15 kids in kindergarten through third grade, you might hire one person to cover that whole grade expansion?
We're actually anticipating to start, our hope would be able to start with at least 3 teachers at 3 different grade bands. So one a K1, 2, a 3, 4, 5, a 6, 7, 8. But then depending on how many folks are interested in this, how many families would be interested for their students, that would depend based off of what that enrollment number looks like. But that would be our immediate
I
anticipation.
also want to add, it would also depend on what was negotiated. We have not, until the board approves the virtual academy, we are not yet down the path to negotiate what that would look like, how many students would be in a class and things like that.
Thank you. That was going to be my next question. Has this been negotiated? Thank you.
Okay, John?
Yes. Seeing how this would be a new and active, I guess for us, very novel program. And, we're talking about hiring teachers specifically for this. Would we be possibly hiring from within so that we get our experienced teachers that we know that could maybe pull the program off, as opposed to bringing in a new teacher to try to run a new program, and then replacing, the in-classroom teacher with a new teacher?
It would just depend. We're going to do this, it depends on enrollment and what we negotiate. And then we would fly and advertise these positions and interview them the same way we would do anything else. And one of the obvious things we would look for is any experience that they might have in this realm, those teachers would have in this realm.
Okay. So being a virtual, or online teacher, I guess you could say, is that a specialty of any kind, or just some teachers develop that experience from doing it?
Some people may have a lot of experience in it. Some people may have majored in something in college that would make them, excellent candidate for this. Some people are just way more familiar and capable at this type of teaching.
Okay, that was my only questions. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Jonathan and then Craig?
My only concern You kind of spoke to it, Madam Superintendent, is making sure that the teachers that are selected for this are completely proficient and prove the ability to work in a virtual space. My biggest concern would be having teachers just migrate over based on their experience in a classroom, but not having the technical ability to communicate in a virtual space and help people to navigate that virtual space. So I hope that during this process of building, that would be really considered heavily, and that be a part of the interview process, whether it's in demonstration, a virtual interview, as well as an in-person interview, to where they must demonstrate the ability to help someone navigate, whether it's the tools, the sites, whatever it may be, because that, I believe that's going to be essential. They're going to need to be teacher and technician.
Good point, Jonathan. Craig and then David.
I like the sound of in-person community-based activities for students. See, I was listening for what's different than we're getting now with distant learning. There's a lot of similarities with distance learning, I'm hearing, but if they can do field trips or group things, that's different. That makes me think there might be similarities with the best homeschooling experiences. And maybe this is an experiment. Let's try it and see how it goes.
David? David, did you have a comment?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was trying to find my mic. When and Dr. Farrar said application, my ears peaked, because when we look at equity, and I kind of going from what we've been learning from the CSBA Equity Network, when we start looking at applications, how does that look? Who's going to be excluded? That's because when you start applying for things, then you're excluding people. And how is that determined? That's not a question for right this second. That's where my thoughts are.
Are you talking about applying as a student?
Right. She said there will be an application.
Yeah,
Right.
David, my head's in the same area as yours is, and I was starting to think about, are there going to be prerequisites, like you have to have internet access, and I think that's where you are too. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm looking at the entirety equity piece of it. It's
right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The entire
And I
piece
think
of it.
I think the word should have been there will be a registration. Isn't that right?
Yes. Yes, that is correct. We need to find some way to figure out who's interested in participating in this program. Key components of it will also include being able to make sure, because equity really was a big part of the conversation that we had on the committee, really making sure that everyone would have access and that internet was not a limiting factor, that we would need to find ways to be able to help support. We know our district is one-to-one, and so access to a device would happen naturally just for any of our other students, but that the internet would need to be we would need to be able to help support if needed for a family who might not have that access. We also did have conversation on our committee of really making sure that our special education students had equal access to this program as well, and what that might mean in terms of being able to support a student with special needs, but also our English learners, or our families with different economic situations. We really wanted to make sure we were being as inclusive as possible for any family in our district who felt that this was the right opportunity for their student.
Awesome. Yeah, that addresses my immediate perk. And also on my call today, we learned that there was a district that distributed hotspots. So that might be
right.
something to think about.
And we do have hotspots that also can be used for that. In fact, we had some hotspots that were purchased for our current situation that we had distributed. So that is a good way of looking at it too.
Could I make one more comment, please?
Sure.
I would like to let you know that I am currently teaching 3 students privately that are attending the virtual school in Vacaville, and they absolutely love it. And they're highly motivated. They're excelling students, so it's working out very well for them. And I have 3 more that are about to go out next year to do the same thing. So from my perspective, I feel like it would be really good for us to do this because it then will give us more ADA that we're losing to other places because they want to participate in these kinds of programs. So I think it's useful to get this up and going. And I think we could look at what they're doing in Vacaville well and what we could improve upon to maintain our students within our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Good point. If there's no other comments, may I have a motion to approve?
I just want to capitalize on what Ms. Scott said. We've had Kava that's been in our area for a while, and we know that we have had this need for a number of years. And I just want to commend our Ed Services team and those people who worked on this, because literally we put together a school plan, or they put together a school plan in a matter of weeks, which often takes a year or more to do. And so in addition to all that's happening right now, they put this forward, and it's really solid. And so thank you to Dr. Farrar and the group and Educational Services and the team that worked on this.
Thank you, Superintendent Corey, for bringing that point up. I meant to make that comment earlier. Thank you. So now may I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second, Joan Gott.
Okay, and Jonathan Richardson, the first. Roll call, please.
Joan Gott,
Aye.
Judy Honeychurch,
Aye.
David Isom,
Aye.
Jonathan Richardson,
Aye.
John Silva,
Aye.
Bethany Smith,
Aye.
Craig Wilson,
Aye.
Chantel Martino.
Aye.
Excellent. Motion carries. Moving on to 12A, review and potential approval of resolution number 60/1920, resolution of the governing board declaring its intention to grant an easement to Yocha Dehe Winton Nation, designating a cultural designation on property located in 1634 Rockville Road. There is no presentation. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Thank
Joan
you.
Gott, move approval.
Wait, Joan, hold up for just a second. Is there any board discussion on this item? Okay, go ahead. Joan moves the motion, and is there a second?
Second, Bethany.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Joan Gott,
Aye.
Judy Honeychurch,
Aye.
David Isom,
Aye.
Jonathan Richardson, John
Aye.
Silva, John Silva,
Aye.
Bethany Smith,
Aye.
Craig Wilson,
Aye.
Chantel Martino.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. 13A, review and potential approval of resolution number 63/1920, authorizing employment of an instructor to teach on a provisional internship permit. No presentation. Do we have any public comment? Any public comment? Okay, no
Sorry,
public
there's
comment.
no public comment.
All right. Discussion? May I have a motion to approve?
Move approval, Joan Gott.
Second.
Second,
Gott.
Bethany.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chantel Martino,
Aye.
Joan Gott,
Aye.
Judy Honeychurch,
Aye.
David Isom,
Aye.
Jonathan Richardson,
Aye.
John Silva,
Aye.
Bethany Smith,
Aye.
Craig Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes. B, review and potential approval of resolution number 64/1920, authorizing instructors to teach on a variable term waiver. No presentation. Any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Thank you. Board discussion. Is there a motion?
I move that this item be approved.
Second, Joan Gott.
Okay. The motion was from David. Roll call, please.
Joan Gott,
Aye.
Judy Honeychurch,
Aye.
David Isom,
Aye.
Jonathan Richardson,
Aye.
John Silva,
Aye.
Bethany Smith,
Aye.
Craig Wilson,
Aye.
Chantal Martino.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. C, review and potential approval of resolution number 65, 1920, declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 2020-2021 school year. No presentation. Any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have a
Madam
question.
Joan?
Why are we doing this right now in May when we have, 3 months before school starts? It seems like this is early.
Mr. Whittemore, are you there?
I'm here. We do this as we get ahead of this. We do not want to be behind, so we're doing our stuff ahead of time. Also, we have to identify, the board has to identify possibilities of what we may need to recruit and have that turned in. Our goal is to make sure we stay well below the numbers that are before you, but we're just doing this ahead of time so we're there. So when the start of school comes, we don't have any slowdown or anything in filling our classes. And again, I want to reiterate, the numbers before you are just possibilities. Our goal is to try to make those as close to zero as possible.
Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Joan Gott.
Second.
Jonathan Richardson. Okay. Roll call, please.
Chantal Martino,
Aye.
Joan Gott,
Aye.
Judy Honeychurch,
Aye.
David Isom,
Aye.
Jonathan Richardson,
Aye.
John Silva,
Aye.
Bethany Smith,
Aye.
Craig Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. 14A, review and potential approval of board self-evaluation goals discussed at the May 7, 2020 governing board meeting. There is no presentation. Any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Any board discussion? May I have a motion to approve?
Move approval. Bethany.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, John Silva.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chantal Martino,
Aye.
Joan Gott,
Aye.
Judy Honeychurch,
Aye.
David Isom,
Aye.
Jonathan Richardson,
Aye.
John Silva,
Aye.
Bethany Smith,
Aye.
Craig Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. 15A, written report for the 2019-2020 Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District Wellness Committee. There is no presentation. Any public comment on this item?
No, there is not.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Joan?
I would like to add in the title of this 50/30 policy that it's for students and staff, because anybody looking to try and figure out what was going on here would not have understood that it had to do with staff as well as students, or student wellness, I should say.
Superintendent Corey, would you like to?
You can send it back to your committee.
Okay, we will.
Oh.
We will send it back to the committee. Thank you. Moving on to 16.
Superintendent Corey, can I jump in for just a moment?
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's right. We need to approve it. So,
Yeah,
oh no,
What we have before you is the
we need to
report.
present it.
Right. What we have before you, this is just for information tonight. And it's the goal. So in your board policy on student wellness, it asks for a committee to come together to set goals for the upcoming year. So we're actually not reviewing the policy itself. This is just the goals that the committee is recommending. We worked with, starting with Kaiser and the RISE initiative, which is the Resilience in School environment. And through that partnership with Kaiser, then developed a partnership with Alliance for a Healthier Generation.
We conducted a very thorough assessment, and it was a committee made up of site leaders, central office leaders, teacher leaders, classified leaders, and after completing the assessment or bringing forward these two goals as recommendations, if board member Gott had an interest in changing the title of the board policy, that we would want to then take that policy back to the governance subcommittee. But this is actually a function of the board policy, not the policy itself.
Thank you, Dr. McCabe. I was referring to the policy.
And I know the first goal specifically mentions staff. So this meets the intent of board member Gott's concern.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, Sheila.
Yeah, if you look at the board policy that she's referring to, at the bottom of the student wellness policy, it does talk about that included in a student wellness policy would be goals for staff. And so that's what she's referring to.
Thank you. 16B, written report, review of financial statement. Pardon me, I skipped the very important one. 16A. I think I didn't want to discuss this one. Budget update. Governors may revise. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, I will turn it over to Michelle Henson.
Good evening, Board President Honeychurch, Superintendent Corey, and governing board members. Item 16A on tonight's agenda is a summary of the Governor's May revise of the 2021 proposed state budget. As we approached the planning stage for the 2021 budget year, we knew that the economy would be slowing, but we had no idea that as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, that the economy would come to a screeching halt. The Governor's May revision anticipates that the state will suffer a $41.2 billion loss in revenues over the next 2 years. This will be compounded by those seeking additional state services, potentially increasing the shortfall to $54 billion. One of the actions taken was to delay the federal and state government tax deadlines from April to July. This has caused a significant decline in revenues from personal income taxes to date. These revenues are also at risk of being received in July, as many are facing unemployment. The May revise has historically served as an anchor point for the governor's proposed budget. It allows the state to update its budget one final time prior to the adopted budget deadline of July 1st. Unfortunately, there remains so much uncertainty and entails not knowing yet where unemployment rates will stand, the impact on tax revenue receipts, or even impacts on entire business sectors. The state has already indicated it will likely need to revise the budget. This graph represents the historical trend of Prop 98 funding. The recent red bars show the May revision as compared to the governor's January budget for the last couple of years. As you can see, the May revision was what we say in the ballpark of the January proposal. However, this year we see a $13.5 billion shortfall to the Prop 98 funding. The May revision acknowledges a 2.31% COLA, but it suspends the COLA for 2021. Categorical programs outside of the local control funding formula, such as those listed here, will also have the statutory COLA suspended. There are many other add-ons that play into the local control funding formula funding, such as transportation and targeted instructional grants. These too will be subject to the 10% reduction. Some of you may recall the deferrals that were used during the recession. Unfortunately, we have learned from this revise that those will return, starting with the district's June apportionment. What this means is that the district will have to place greater emphasis on managing its cash flow. The May revision suspends the 2.31% COLA and includes an additional reduction for a total of 10%. So this is how the local control funding is calculated. First, the 2.31% COLA is applied to arrive at the 2021 base grants. Then the 10% reduction is applied. The overall effect reduction is 7.92%. This is what you'll hear us refer to as a deficit factor. Grades K3 and 9-12 will receive additional base grant amounts known as the grade span adjustments. K3 receives a 10.4% for smaller average class sizes, and grades 9 through 12 receive a 2.6% increase for career technical education. These adjustments will still happen. The cuts that reduce the LCFF base grant will in turn lower the amount upon which the supplemental and concentration grant funding is calculated. So our supplemental and concentration grant funding will also naturally reduce as well. This slide shows the drop in LCFF revenues we need to adjust to as we finalize the adopted budget. The per ADA funding projected for 2021 is $8,966. To provide perspective, this figure per ADA compared to what we are currently funded on is $821 less per ADA. Calculate that out for the anticipated ADA we have for fall, and the district is receiving approximately $18.4 million less in LCFF revenues next year. Categorical program cuts will also occur. The state estimates a savings of $352 million by cutting programs listed here, some upwards of 50%. Many of these categoricals are active programs within our district. There is some good news. If this budget passes, we may see an increase in special education funding. However, it will also be impacted by the suspension of the 2.31% COLA ongoing. Realizing the devastating cuts being made to public agencies, the governor did manage to provide some relief by reducing employer pension contribution rates. CalPERS was initially set for 2021 at 22.68%, and the revised rate will be 20.7%. For CalSTRS, the initial rate for 2021 was set at 18.4% and now is proposed at 16.15%. This will save the district a significant amount in the short term, but it is important to note that both reductions to CalPERS and CalSTRS rates will likely reduce the funded status of each of those plans and potentially increase employer contributions in the future. This budget has been probably the most difficult hand our district has ever been dealt, not only in terms of cuts, but also in terms of timing. We have made cuts in the realm of $13 million before, but we did that over a 3-year period of time. We are being asked to cut $18 million in 1 week. Linnea and the fiscal team have worked tirelessly in putting an unimaginable budget together. This budget is based on the information we have to date, and as the state has even indicated, their own budget is built on so many unknowns and will need to be revised immediately. We know we'll be doing the same within the 45-day revision period once the state budget is enacted. Thank you.
That's devastating news. Do we have any comment from board members?
Yes.
David, and then
Hi.
Craig, I saw your hand.
I'll yield to Craig.
David, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, again, on this call today that we had with Congressman Garamendi and some of his staff, some of the school board members kind of spelled out where we were. He already knew it. And so part of what he's pushing to get the HEROES Act approved includes a large amount of money to, I think, $1 trillion that's going to go to states, and hopefully $155 million to California, which could be used for education. Also, just as an interesting point, Sac City, their president of the board was on this call today, the Zoom meeting, and they are more than likely filing bankruptcy in the next couple of days. Just to let you know how devastating this is, not only to us, but to some of the other districts.
Wow. Craig, you had your hand up?
Okay, is it accurate that we're going to need to cut about 10% of our budget in the next few weeks?
Well, essentially, that's what we did. It's about 18 million, so it's not quite 10%. What the factor they used was 7.9%. And so essentially, that's what staff has done. We know that this is going to be somewhat of an on paper budget because, as we said, our fiscal services, Linnea Grindle, is seriously putting together a budget right now for the board to see in June at the first meeting. Because remember, you need to see the budget in June first meeting and approve it in the second meeting. We know that it's going to change. This is going to be a significant change. And so within 45 days of the state passing their budget, because right now what's happening, the governor put out his May revised, but now everybody in state government is jockeying, in the legislature. So things may even change from what he's predicting or projecting. But we have to build this budget based on the information that was shared tonight. And so we've taken a look at some of those transfers out that this board has in the past made decisions on, things like the $500,000 for safety and security, $500,000 for playground replacements, our deferred maintenance, textbooks. We took all of those that we could in order to show a balanced budget. We've had conversations with our county because remember, they have to also approve the budget. And so we've had conversations about that because, for example, one of the revenues that we're going to be getting is the special ed revenue. Well, that doesn't even come until August, but we're including that into our budget, even though we haven't received it yet. And so in past, the county would be very critical of that and saying, you can't count that as revenue because it has yet to be received. But we did have a conversation with them and gave them some of these scenarios. And they said, you're just going to, when you submit your budget to us, have a lot of documentation. One of the other things that we looked at is reducing substitute costs. So we know that during this time of distance learning, our substitute costs have decreased. However, next year, we haven't made the decision yet to go 100% distance learning. And so we don't know if we're going to realize the savings. We think we are, but we don't know. And so we had a conversation with them saying that, we're going to reduce our substitute costs by a certain amount in anticipation that there will be some sort of distance learning. And so we did already have those conversations with our county superintendent and our county CBO. But just know when you see the budget on June 4th that things will and most definitely change.
May I make a request?
Yes.
When you give us this information that's coming up, would you please make a list for us of the things that you're recommending that we cut so that we know where the hits are going to be?
You'll see that in the budget presentation. Those things will be included as to what we have done to balance the budget.
But will they? What I'm asking is that they be line itemed out so we can see exactly what they are, rather than a lump sum. We're gonna take this much out of employee salary, this much out of maintenance, because lots of times we get lump sums and we don't know what has been removed. And I would really like to see what you're proposing to take out of this budget for the coming year.
John, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. I don't know if anybody in the public hopefully realizes, and some of our newer board members, haven't been through this before, but not long after, David, I, and Judy came onto the board, we had to cut $6 million. And, there were rumors swirling about cutting kindergarten, about cutting sports. We had packed standing room only board meetings. And this is 3 times that amount. I don't know where we'd find it. Sure, we'd have to rise to the occasion and just start cutting. Obviously very carefully, but this is $18 million is pretty devastating. you know, when we cut $6 million, I mean, I remember we received a pretty long list from our law firm, what was legal to even cut, so that we didn't cut the wrong things. And this list would have to be 3 times as long to get 3 times as much cut out of it. So this would be this is going to be a pretty tough season coming up if we have to go through this, and we will. Hopefully, the revised budget from the state will be a little better. Maybe we'll come quicker out of this COVID thing than we're envisioning, and things get turned around much faster at the front end than we're thinking they are, because $18 million, for our school district is a huge amount of money to try to come up with. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. That's all I can say. We need to. I'm sure you guys will make an understandable list, but we're the ones that have to make the decisions on which ones actually happen. But it
Right. Right, because what you're saying is it's going to be somewhat temporary, because there are things that the board may say, no, we don't want this reduction. You're going to have to reduce elsewhere. And so you're right. There's going to be a lot of discussion that's going to have to happen. And remember, when we're talking, budget, we're talking this year and 2 years out. And so we have to show that we can meet our financial obligations for this year, next year, and the following year.
And
That is the challenge.
Our partner, personnel unions had to make some pretty heavy concessions in that time. So I can only imagine what $18 million is going to look like for everybody involved.
And remember, that's just for next year.
I know. Anyway,
and
that's
so
all I had.
you're right. There's
all I
going
had
to
to
be a
say.
lot of negotiations. Mr.
Yeah.
Whittemore and team is going to be very busy negotiating with our employee unit.
Right. Okay, that's all.
Jonathan.
I don't want us to end this conversation regarding reductions on such a negative note. It could be extremely discouraging to know that we need to make these type of cuts, but because we're FSUSD and we live by our mission, I believe that we will be just as resilient as we've been before. I know in the past we've been able to successfully do things that we thought were unthinkable. And if our history has any merit on what our future looks like, I believe that we will be that much more stronger, that much more vibrant, and that much more innovative, because if there's not going to be anything that brings all of us together in this, I don't know another situation that forces us to think outside of the box, to make individual sacrifices, all the way from the board to the administration, to the teachers, to the families. Everybody is going to have all hands on deck, because at the end of the day, the most important person that will be impacted by this are none of the adults, it's the students. And we must continue to keep them on the forefronts, no matter what hits that we must take as adults on their behalf, so that when they look back at this moment, 2020, in the year 2040, they'll be able to remember that there was an army of individuals that stood on the front line of something that was coming to rob them of all potential and opportunity. And we chose to stand firm in it and make sure that they didn't lose no matter what we lost. So I think it's important that we not just focus on what we're losing, but also the opportunity of what we can gain when we look at this from a different perspective.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any other comments before we move on?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes.
During that particular time, I was not on the board. I was a music teacher in an elementary school, and I lost my job. So I do understand the seriousness of what's going on with this. But not only did it affect me as an individual, it also affected all the students that I taught. And that program has never been regained in all this time. It's been over 10 years. So there are lots of serious things that continue on down, and they have to be looked at very, very carefully, because we have a whole group of people now, of adults now in our community that are musically illiterate because of what happened during that time. So there are pieces to this that have still continued to roll from the last issue that we went through with this. So I'm really concerned about what's going to happen with this. And that's why I want to have a list of all these things that we're looking at that we're going to be removing so that they can be as far away from the students and teachers as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, I was
Go
on the
ahead.
board when those things took place. I think it's important that we make sure we understand that what we're going to have to do is what we're going to have to do and do the best job that we can. This is just where we are, but I want to make sure that nowhere do we start saying we're going to restore, because somehow that line got out from somewhere, and those of us that were on the board we literally went over the recordings of the meetings, but yet somehow that kept coming up, and it was never ever said by board members that we would restore the programs that we had to cut. And so I just want to make sure that we are careful not to try to promise something that we cannot fulfill, or even seem to make a statement like that where it comes back where we're not being genuine to our word.
Thank you, David. Any other comments? Okay, we'll move on to 16B. Again, written report, review of financial statement for month ending April 2020. No presentation. Do we have any public speakers? Hearing no public speakers.
There's no public speakers, sorry.
Thanks. Any board discussion on this item? Seeing none or hearing none, we'll move on to the board subcommittee report, 20A, facility subcommittee meeting minutes from May 12th, 2020. There is no presentation. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Any discussion from the board?
I think our police chair has something to talk about.
Yeah, I do want to just bring up, there was a very important item that came up during the last agenda, and just to make everyone aware. So we're coming to the end of the bond. Excuse me, we're on our third bond sale, and so we're starting to see where the money needs to go and prioritizing the projects. And it was decided at the meeting that to make sure that we can fill an additional $4 million that are going to be needed to build the theater, the art center for Fairfield High, that we are going to push one of the smaller projects off until the end. We were pretty comfortable that the Chris, help me with the word, the the funds that are in reserve to make sure that that projects, if there's money they need to tap into, they have it. So the Anna Kyle project has been pushed to the end of the bond to make sure that we can fulfill the theater, as well as some other projects that we felt were a very high priority. And hopefully there's going to be no shortage of funds once we get to that point. But we did decide to reorganize the priority structure.
Thank you, Bethany. Just from my personal perspective, I agree with that priority list that the committee came up with. Any other comments from board members?
Can I make a comment, please?
Yes.
I am very excited about putting this program together because it will be the only theater that we have on a high school campus that will be a legitimate theater. instead of reconverting a gym space or a shop or something like that. It's just going to be a wonderful, wonderful addition, not only for Fairfield High, but for the entire community. There is not enough performance space available right now for the performing groups. And the potential of adding in more community involvement on that campus will be wonderful and can generate funding to help support it and maintain it. So I'm really excited about this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Joan. Okay, moving on to 21, adjournment. I would like to adjourn the meeting in memory of all of the COVID victims. Meeting adjourned.